We're going to talk a little bit about glazing. There's a couple ways to glaze and a couple effects that you would achieve. First of all, this piece has been painted with black paint. Glaze comes in a variety of colors. This time I chose teal taffy because I want to show a good contrast. I'm going to use just a regular paintbrush. You don't need anything special. Again, we use styrofoam plates. You also don't need very much glaze. If you over pour, you can always put it back in. Glaze is made up of 2 and sometimes 3 different components. One of them is like Elmer's glue, kind of a clear, transparent material that's mixed with paint. With this effect, if I wanted to get all of the individual crevices and creases to have a different color on them, I could do that with taking a very fine paintbrush and painting every one. That's too much work for me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to paint the whole thing. This is what I call glazing the innies. We have innies and outies. I'm going to show you how to glaze the innies. I'm going to cover the entire piece. You can flap a little down here. One of the components in glaze, the Elmer's glue type of thing, also is like a petroleum jelly. You don't have to be in a real hurry to deal with it. If you're doing a cupboard door, you can do the whole thing. Or you can work in small areas. We're going to work in smaller areas in just a second. Baby wipes. Take a baby wipe. Now remember, I wanted just the inside detail. So, I get the inside detail by wiping off the glaze on the outie, leaving it on the innies only. That's glazing the innies. So, now we want to get just the tops, or the outies. This particular paintbrush was a regular paintbrush. This brush, I've textured it. In the tips and tricks video, I show you how to do that. And here's the reason why. Again, if I tell you to put the tips in there, you will, but you'll get all these tips. This time, I want you to just put the tips of this paintbrush in the glaze. Get a lot less. So, we want just the tops. Depends on how dark you want it. This is how you're going to do the outies. Sometimes some will get inside of the crevices, but remember, it's art, it's your piece. That's glazing the outies, leaving the innies black. this table, we want to try to achieve getting some of the detail highlighted. This is painted in a real light blue called Swan Lake. I did pick a metallic champagne glaze because we want it subtle. We don't want it really to stand out a lot. We're going to start in small areas, covering the entire surface. Again, we're going to take a baby wipe. We're going to wipe off the glaze that we don't want to stay on the piece. Again, leaving it in the innies. Now, if you keep your baby wipe clean, you won't have much excess to have to wipe off. We want to try to get that glaze right in that detail work. Let's see what happens here. Again, make sure your baby wipe stays clean if you don't want a lot left behind. It always depends on what you want for your piece. That might have been a little bit too much, but again, I can always pour back. Since this is the metallic glaze, you might not be able to see it in the picture, but there is quite a nice sheen to it. Doing the top. There is a couple different ways we can do the top. If we wax it first, the glaze will only stay in these crevices. This hasn't been waxed. So, let's see what happens when we do this. If I do let it set too long, I can always paint over it. But I didn't let it set too long. Good. So after the project is completely dried and cured, I always say to wait at least 24 hours. Just feel your project. It is going to feel a little bit chalky. If you like that feel, you can be done. The other thing you can do is make it a smoother finish. Take a sanding block, and it's a huge difference. It's literally just like you're washing a window. Just scuff the top of your piece. I would start with a fine sanding block. The difference is huge. What it does is it knocks the minerals off that I put in the paint to make it bond. The difference is really huge. Again, you can be done. What I choose to do is wax the piece. What wax does is it helps protect from fingerprints. It helps protect the paint from water, and it really gives it a finished look. I'm not sure this video is going to pick it up, but the wax also enhances the color. Some people say that they think it changes the color. Therefore, if it's a gray, it does get a little bit darker. It's not a real shine. It's just a sheen. Let's see what happens with this piece. The other thing to keep in mind is very little wax. As you can see, I use a sock so that I have more control. And basically it's wax on, wax off. Smooth as can be. Smooth as butter. I do the same thing to the legs as well. Rubbing the piece to put the wax on, turning the sock for the wax off. And your piece is complete.